Henderson with the Private Sector Alliance, and as always, we're broadcasting from the top of the railroad cut in Winnetka. Thank you very much for joining us. In our crew news this evening, Elliot Bernstein is working on graphics. Thank you, Elliot. That machine is a beast, and it's been more trouble than it's worth, but appreciate your tackling it. We've lost a lot of people who've worked on that graphics machine because it is such a beast, so please stay with us. We don't want to lose you because you've been on the graphics machine. Lauren Lieb is on camera. He's going back to McAllister College in September after our reruns, so we won't have him next fall, but I hope he'll come back and join us again next summer when he's on summer break, and by then he will have decided, I'm sure, what his course of study will be after he started there for a while. Skylar Henderson is still studying for his med boards. I could be announcing that for quite some time. He also told me today he may be taking a trek through Yugoslavia from there to Singapore sometime in the next year, so we should have him on the show thereafter. He also did interesting work with Mother Teresa in India recently, so there's another reason to have Skylar on as a guest. Sam Foster is from Glencoe. He's a scratch sailor, windsurfer, and he's also a very good professional audio board operator, and he's volunteering with this show for the summer, and I hope he'll stay on for the fall as well if his school schedule at New Trier allows. Tom Weiss is coming up with some great ideas for the show, improvements, including finally helping us collect some money contributions from people so we can have some improvements to the show which we'll generate ourselves as opposed to asking Post Newsweek for all their help, and we're very grateful to them for the use of this very fine studio and equipment. You know, speaking of numbers and raising money, numbers really speak, and there are sources and uses of capital and people. That means that people and money move from one place to another place in order to make a better use of time. This economic reality belies the static economic assumptions of both liberal and conservative controllers. Recently, we have heard news about two topics which ostensibly are unrelated. First, we have all heard about the meteoric stock market ascent led and fueled by technology stocks in the software, hardware, and information distribution businesses. Lots of money went there, and that action speaks much louder than spin-cast words, so we could definitely consider that a use of capital. Secondly, we continue to hear about layoffs. John Challenger's been a guest many times on this show, and he specializes in outplacement. We've heard some of his comments about layoffs. The largest contributor to the layoff statistics is government bureaucracy at all levels, but most recently 94,000 employees at closed military bases. Not immune are very large USA corporations, such as First Chicago, right in our backyard, after its merger, or IBM after its streamlining. Those very difficult human decisions are a hard reality, and they create a source of labor. Through the noise of news events, however, we may discern two very important and related trends in this use of capital and information technology, and this source of labor from obsolete public and private bureaucracy. As much as big government and overstaffed private enterprise try to keep control, the genius of the marketplace finally rules, without regulators, courts, or the usual last resorts of the inefficient. The marketplace of capital overran private bureaucracy. The marketplace of ideas overran the public bureaucracy. In both cases, money and people went to better places. We now read about a slowdown in consumption, income, and, gratefully, inflation. I believe that this is a very important transition period for those recently laid off and the new technology equipment that was recently installed. For the benefit of themselves, their families, and all of us, those people are training for new skills and jobs. Former government employees can now realize their full potential without the constraints of central command government. Job and economic satisfaction will come more directly from the people they serve, and they serve well. This flow of good people and useful capital into productive and rewarding endeavors is occurring not just here, but also in Russia, Eastern Europe, India, Italy, and China. Private economic and personal freedom against the obstruction of government socialists is the new age common denominator shared by people of all cultures, genders, religions, incomes, and races. Let's continue to enhance and protect that freedom and wish great success for all those personal efforts. Thank you. Our guest this evening is here on a timely basis. This is the 75th anniversary of the founding of North Shore Country Day School. And our guest, Julie Hall, is the head of the school. She has been the head of the school since 1992. She's been at the school since 1976, though, so it's not, she's not a recent arrival. And she's lived in Winnetka for 30 years, where she raised 3 children, 2 of which who still teach, and all 3 have been teachers in the past. So education has been a very major part of your life and your children's lives as well. But having been at North Shore Country Day since 1976 and head of school since 1992, she also served as a teacher, head of the middle school, academic dean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, many other positions at the school. And before that, she assumed teaching positions at private and public schools, both in the East and around Chicago. A graduate of Swarthmore College with an English degree. We're glad to have you and some of your ideas and insights on Winnetka Live. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Jim.
So 75 years of North Shore Country Day.
Yeah.
And tell me a bit about its foundation.
Well, it's really interesting that we've got a little 16-acre plot of land in the middle of Winnetka that can not have many people know about it, not as many people as I wish did, considering it's been there since 1919. The school was founded by parents, and parents have always been a close part of the strong part of the school. Parents were looking for a school that would be an alternative to the best college preparatory schools, the boarding schools of the East. But they wanted a school where their kids would come home at night, would still be a part of their lives. So they set about creating a school that would have the strong academic background, beginning with kindergarten, going all the way through 12th grade. We've been that since the beginning. They brought in Perry Dunlap Smith, who with Carlton Washburn and the Winnetka schools had a lot of the same ideas of what was important in education. But I think they both believed that there was room for excellence in education of more than one type. And from the beginning, the school put a lot of emphasis on community, the idea that when you've got a small group of people of all different ages, it's more like a big family. Put a lot of emphasis on democracy, wanting students to be a part of their own learning, involved in their own learning, not sitting and just having it fed to them, but really being involved. Artistic and physical development from the very beginning has been a part of the school, and global consciousness, which to me is very interesting. In 1919, I don't think that was that usual to have that as a part of a mission of a school. So that's what we've been doing for 75 years.
At the time it was founded, what was the, how would it complement the other educational alternatives in the area? How was it slightly different and available for this constituency versus, say, some of the parochial or the religious-based schools, the public schools?
Well, North Shore's never had a religious connection, and I think the feeling was that public schools are usually larger, usually make changes more slowly, and this in some ways was an opportunity for a school to move quickly, to make changes, to try out different ideas, to be innovative. The best example most recently was that we decided we wanted to do more in the way of foreign language, and we decided that in the spring, and by the fall we had introduced Spanish for all of the kids from kindergarten through 8th grade and begun that program and had it happen.
That is fast.
So,
how long would that have taken in the public school environment, perhaps?
I don't know, but you have a lot more people, you
with
need more hiring,
Yeah.
it takes more time to plan.
Budgeting.
And so I think we've always been able to try out ideas and have enough connection of the teachers and the students working together, listening to each other, a lot of give and take. For instance, kids in the high school will often take independent study. They're encouraged to take independent study. This means a student can say to a teacher, you know, I'm really interested in 18th century art and I don't know that much about it, and do you think if I could work out something that I really wanted to do, you could help me and we could create a course together. And a student and a teacher will create a course together.
How much control, speaking of that, that's a fascinating concept. How much control do you have? There's an accreditation process. And I'm not entirely familiar with it, but tell me a bit about accreditation and how you become a school, what rules and regs you have to fulfill,
Right.
where do they come from?
Well, I think certainly there are basic number of days that you need to be in having school, and some basic rules that the state sets up. But we really have a lot of independence. That's why we're called an independent school.
More so than the public schools? Do they have
Oh,
a different
absolutely.
set of parameters that they
Yeah,
have to, is
we
that
have a
right?
great deal of freedom. Our accreditation, the one that means the most to us, comes from the National Association of Independent Schools, which is accreditation, gives accreditation to independent schools throughout the country. And we've got strong standards. But there is more freedom for schools to be individual, to be distinctive.
To come up with that sort of
Yeah.
program for an individual student
Right.
or a group of students.
Right. So that we don't have to be tied with, to what everybody else is doing within the state, a certain year at a certain time.
You can be creative with funding, too. You can go out and raise it or
Yes.
ask if put a certain price tag on it or whatever.
Absolutely, because we are not supported by the federal government at all.
Mm-hmm.
Our funding comes from tuition, and it comes from parents and alums and friends who believe in the school and support it financially.
Where do your students come from? Tell me, how many students are there,
Yeah.
and where do they come from, some of the demographics of the school?
There are about 370 kids from kindergarten through 12th grade. They come from, I would say, 25 different communities throughout the North Shore, including Chicago.
Do you have boarders?
No, we don't,
It's all day.
except for the international students who come and live with families, but they don't board on campus. There was a time when we had a few boarders, but basically we're a day school.
How long do international students attend? Is that for
Well,
a year or two?
They may be exchange students who come for 1 year, but we've got a very diverse population, and I think many times families who move from another country are attracted to the school and will enroll their students for 5 years or 3 years.
If
Or
that's their stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how long their stay is. But we draw more students from the immediate suburbs than anywhere else, but it's a wide range. And it's a range of people in terms of background, too. Tuition is expensive, but we have a strong scholarship program. And
What is it? What is the tuition generally? Do you want-
It ranges from $6,000 to almost $11,000 for the kids in the upper school.
Now, that's very close to what's being spent on the public schools per
Mm-hmm.
head. I think it's lower than the lower school amount. I think the lower school amount.
Well,
in
the
areas-
6,000 is for a half-day junior kindergarten
Oh,
program.
I see. Okay.
And it's true. It costs us about the same amount that it would cost, that the tax base goes to support the public schools. But about 15 or 20% of our students receive some kind of financial aid. So there's a chance for them to get the support. And they come because it's something that their parents believe in, that they feel is important, that they're going to get something that is different. Give you an example. We make a pairing of the children in kindergarten and the seniors. We have an assembly twice a week where we all gather together in the auditorium, whole school. And the kindergartners sit on the laps of the seniors. The kind of relationship that happens between those buddies who are paired together for the whole year is something really special that doesn't happen in many situations. And with families as fragmented as they are, that's something that really makes a difference.
Stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way you're expected to behave. Kids will say, I can't do the things I might otherwise because I got to think of my 4-year-old or my 5-year-old buddy. They're very cognizant of that. At the same time, there's this excitement about reaching out and learning new things. We were talking before, you were talking about technology and what's happened with technology stocks.
Let's get into, while we move into that, you gave me this outline, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting, the framework for distinction.
Right.
And that's the title of the show. And I had a chance to read it before coming over here, at least this outline of it. I know there's a lot more to it than this brief summary. But you've talked about here several major areas in the framework for distinction in terms of preparing students for interdependent skills and the sorts of issues that I addressed, yes, in the commentary, and that many people come on the show with their unique talents, and you've got to integrate a lot these days. But you speak to foreign language and multicultural awareness, mathematics, science, and technology. And you know, how much is really new under the sun with people, really, basically? You know, my great-grandfather, Wheelock, was on the New York State Education Board. And I just wonder how much is different from his service in the around 1900. People, how different are people, and how much does education, you know, have to really change? Aren't we essentially pretty much the same? And
in lots of ways
I know
we are,
that
sure.
we've got television and cable, and
Right.
that's all different. But people basically, you know, they're very similar, aren't they?
I think they are, and one of the things that's really been fun for me as we got ready for our 75th anniversary is look at what has the school been in the past. And there are a lot of the same values, the same educational goals that we've had for 75 years as a school, and it probably hasn't changed that much since your grandfather's day, and the things that are important. The outlooks, encouraging kids to be creative and critical at the same time in their thinking, to have a real joy in learning, but to challenge themselves, not to just sit back and say, well, I'm going to take whatever comes to me, but to push
joy
themselves.
and rigor, which you were
Joy
saying
and
before.
rigor, and those are terms that Csikszentmihalyi at the University of Chicago has used in his research on learning and how people learn. So I think there's a lot that is the same. I think technology is one area that is making a world of difference, already has, and is going to even more. I think it's going to change educational institutions.
In what areas? The efficiency of delivery? It's a way to more efficiently deliver the same
No,
education?
I think it's bigger than that. I think in some ways, it makes it possible for us to do things that we couldn't do before, or do them faster, or have more access to information. But it's not just having access to information, it's what do we do with it? How does it change the way in which we teach and learn?
How does it?
Well, one of the ways I think it changes it is that there is so much that is available to us that the role of teachers is going to be more helping kids know what to do with that influx of information.
Going into Encarta by Microsoft or something and
You need to know how to use it. What's reliable, what's not reliable, what's important, what should you question, what should you search, and what should you just leave alone.
and you know how to make decisions with all that information
Absolutely.
out there, with all that
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the most valuable human resource now is decision making.
I agree. I agree. One of the things that's happening this fall, the head of our history department is doing the AP history course. He's going to teach it not using a text. He's going to use a CD. All the kids will have laptops. What this means, and the way he looks at it, is that instead of spending a lot of the course time having the kids get the information, they will get it much faster, and they can spend more of their time, because they're going to be hooked up to people in other schools as well as each other and the teacher. They'll spend more of their time saying, what do we do with this information? How do we use it? How do we analyze it?
And it's not just the technical skills, but the mental skills.
Yes,
is what
exactly.
you're getting at.
Exactly. And I think schools are going to do more and more of that. I think the day when the expert, the teacher, stands up in front of the students and gives them the golden words, that's not going to happen in classrooms, because via technology, you can get the best people all over the world at the touch of your mouse. You can get museums, you can get the greatest libraries of the world. All of that information is there.
Are they going to lose their mechanical skills, or because of these mechanical skills, are they going to lose the mental skills and disciplines of manually working out mathematical formulas?
Not if we do it right. I think one of the things in math, I think one of the things that's going to happen is that we're going to spend a lot more time encouraging kids to know how to estimate. If you know that a machine will give you the exact answer, what you need to know is, does that answer make sense?
Right.
And if you don't know that, then you get fooled by the machines and you do lose. And I think the people-to-people connections will always be important. How do we relate to each other as human beings? I don't think we ever want to have kids who do nothing but spend their times in front of a screen. They need to be doing things and be active beyond that.
How's that part of the educational environment, that interaction? How do you encourage it in the academic curriculum?
Well, I think one of the ways is by encouraging kids to have respect for each other, for their teachers, to really listen to other people, people who are different than they are, as well as people who are the same. It's very easy to be with somebody who thinks the same way you do. But how do you get along with somebody who comes from a different country or has a different point of view? Can you really hear them? Can you listen to them? And in this world, if we can't learn to do that, and if we don't teach our kids to do that, I think they're going to have real problems. It's more important than it used to be.
Do you do that through teamwork, some teamwork assignments, et
A
cetera,
lot of
in
teamwork
schools?
assignments. I think we encourage kids to help each other if what it means is that they're all learning. That's the most important thing. It's not, did I get an A, but did I learn and did you learn, and are we moving ahead? Are we learning more? Are we pushing ourselves? Are we getting where, as far as we can go?
Over 30 years as a professional in education, three things that have three important fundamental things that you've noticed have changed in education.
One, I think a lot that's changed is the students we're teaching have changed. I think they're more impatient. I think they're more demanding. I think one of the things I think is sad is that I don't think they have the same kinds of heroes and heroines that they can look to, the role models that that are ones that I would hope they would have. One educator talked about the fact that it used to be the role of education to help kids know the culture. Many times the role of schools is to counter the culture in some way. So I think that has changed. I think the other thing that is changing is the teacher is much more the coach who is encouraging the students and listening to them and giving them leeway rather than, well, the phrase is not the sage on the stage, but the coach who's on the side, not the expert who stands in front of the lectern with the microphone and gives all the words of wisdom. So that's more or less three.
Well, yeah, that's three. What about what's going on with private education, public education? There's some wonderful innovation out there.
There is.
We've all got the same goals, no matter whether it's a private or a public institution. Fascinating new experiments in terms of vouchering in the public schools.
Absolutely.
And you're already economically incented in the private schools. Where's it going? Where do you think it's going to go?
I don't know. I think it has a long way to go before it solves all the problems that we've got in public education. And I think one of the things that I have to say is that we can't just focus on the schools. We have to look at how we as a society value children. Because the schools can't find all the answers. The problems are broader than what the schools can do.
There's been a lot of that. People really do have assumed let the school take care of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, by the way, could you put up the slide with the telephone number for North Shore Country Day, because we've just got a few minutes left. I want to make sure we get that on the air. And our guest is, again, is Julie Hall, who's head of school for North Shore Country Day, and I want the telephone number on there in case somebody would like to call you and ask about the school. What's going on soon? What's going on this fall? Tell me about something that some people, things the community might have an interest in.
One of the things that's going on right now that I'm very interested in is the summer program, which is including foreign language immersion for kids so that they can spend a full morning learning French or Spanish or Japanese. And we've got a new program for middle schoolers, tying them into technology and other things. We'll have somebody special coming this year. We had Jane Goodall last year. I don't know who our visiting fellow will be, but that's a program that we always open up to the whole community.
When will that be?
It depends on who we get and when we set it, and I don't yet have a date. But it's fun to be a part of the community in the sense that we're opening up the campus for somebody that, the way we do it is we look for somebody that has epitomized the school's motto, live and serve. And it's exciting for kids to have the contact with somebody all day long in small groups, as well as hearing a formal presentation That's the thing that we open up for.
Are all your constituencies represented on the Board of Trustees, alumni? And
Alumni, parents, sometimes alumni are also parents. Sometimes they're past parents, but it really is primarily a parent group. And it's...
how much of the money upon which the school operates, how much comes from tuition, how much comes from fundraising efforts?
Only about 70 or 80% of it comes from tuition, and the rest...
That's really quite good, though. That's quite a bit.
Well, it is, but it still leaves a lot that, that you have to cover. We do have an endowment, which helps, and we have very loyal alums. I'm always surprised at the number of alums who say their best friends are still the people they knew when they were at North Shore.
What's your great annual event that you have?
We have an auction which raises
right.
money.
Yeah,
yes, and the Country Day Fair, which is not to raise money, but it's open to the community, and that's in May. And that's always fun.
Back to this evolution or revolution that's going on in the private and the public schools now. You were saying you think that
I think there's a lot that needs to happen, and I hope there are ways in which private schools and public schools can work together. I hope there are ways in which we can do things and help public schools see some examples of what might happen. There's a lot of talk about small schools in public schools. We are a small school. We can do things. We can help, perhaps help public schools look to some of our successes. But I don't think any of us, wherever we are, can give up on the young people of this country. They're our future, and it's why I'm in education, because I care about it, and I think it's possible to make a real difference in what happens in schools for all the kids in the country. And also have connections. You talked about, you said something about Russia in your opening comments. We have a Russian educator coming in to spend some time with us in the fall, seeing what it's like to be a part of an American school. And of course, we'll learn as much from her, I think, as she will from us. But those kinds of interchanges, learning from people all over the world.
Well, and then hooking in with your computer systems and
Absolutely.
using those in the
education
process.
the internet makes it possible.
Sure.
Right now, we're wiring the whole campus. And I look at all those wires and I say to the men, I hope you know what you're doing when I see that bundle of wires this big. But it's going to make a big difference.
It's fascinating times.
Yeah.
Thank you for your many years of service to our community.
Thank you.
Through North Shore Country Day, and most recently as head of school. Great luck with
Thank
your
you.
session this year,
Yeah.
with continuing to raise adequate capital and resources, and using them as well as you've been doing over these years.
It's an exciting thing to do.
Thank you,
It really
Julie,
is.
and come back again.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. And thank you for joining us on Winnetka Live, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Warning comes today from a group of pediatricians and hospital executives. They say cost cutters in Congress need to make sure children who have coverage now remain covered. Chicago has recorded its first 2 heat-related deaths from the current hot spell. A spokesperson for the Cook County Medical Examiner reported that 2 bodies were found yesterday and that their deaths from heat were confirmed in examinations today.